Hey there, Willows here. This video is going to be on a new Demon Hunter build from patch 2.4. They've revised the Shadow Mantle set, and this is kind of the optimized build revolving around that setup. So here you can see some of the gameplay, and on the screen you can actually see the spec, the skill choices, the gems, the cube powers, the passives, everything's right there on the screen for you to look at, and I will go in detail through the whole setup here. I just wanted to start out with some footage and the setup, so you can kind of just take it from here. If you don't want to watch the whole video, you don't have to. There you go. Now, for the long-winded explanation. So let's go ahead and switch over, and I'm going to leave the spec on the screen, and I'm going to talk about the itemization and then some of the reasoning on the skill choices. So, first off, if you're not familiar, you have the new shadow set here. So we got the 2-piece, 1000 damage increase modifier as long as you're using a melee weapon. 4-piece shadow power gains the effect of all the runes and lasts forever. Kind of like the Marauder with the companions, you get all the runes and it lasts forever, so that's really good value there. And then the 6-piece Impale hits for 40,000% increased damage. So, obviously Impale is going to be a large portion of your damage here with the setup. The other key aspect of the build is going to be this weapon. Lord Greenstone's Fan. You get 200 to 300% increased per second up to 30 seconds. So it stacks up once per second, caps at 30, and you get a really big damage increase from that. And you can see here on the tooltip, it shows you how many stacks you have, and you're going to want to have a lot of stacks every time you fan. So you don't want to use your fan of knives when you have low stacks, because then you're just wasting time potentially doing more damage. So a little bit of information on that. Other than that, there's not too much going on that's new. There's this belt here. So after you use Impale, Vault costs no resource for 2 seconds. So this is going to enable you to spam Vault a lot, which allows you to take advantage of the immunity frame. And also we're using Rattling Roll here, as you'll notice, because the cost is not an issue. Knocking them back and stunning the monsters is going to be really clutch for whenever you're running around in the rift. Kind of stall the monsters from just annihilating you instantly. So there we have that. Other key items, you got the focus and restraint here for the damage increase. Got the Hellfire Amulet. Again, pretty standard setups. The Wraps of Clarity. This is a lightning based build, so you're going to want to have lightning damage modifiers. The Deadman's Legacy and the Rucksack have been redesigned to have an additional property. And that cooldown amount is pretty much right where I'm at here, 36.5, 37 cooldown reduction. Normally I go a little bit higher, closer to 37, but however much cooldown you need to get your Vengeance to be 100% uptime with the Dawn in the cube. So you notice we have the Dawn in the cube. It's going to reduce the cooldown on Vengeance by a significant amount, allowing you to get 100% Vengeance with a very low cooldown reduction, relatively speaking. So, and there you can see, right as it fades, it's ready. The skill choices and why we're using those abilities. So here we have the spec. We got Thunderball. This is basically your only option as you're using a melee weapon. You're not able to use most of these generators. You have the choice of the grenade and the bola shot. Bola shot is lightning damage here, and this is going to be a 7 hatred generator. So most of the generators generate 4. A few of them are going to give you 7, and the bola shot with the Thunderball is one of them that's going to do that. So maximum hatred generation and lightning damage, ricochet, lightning damage here as well. The extra knives is not that important because most of your area damage is coming from area damage and the fan of knives, but because the fan of knives is lightning, you're going to want to stack the Impale damage as lightning. And the fan of knives is kind of the reason that we're going lightning. If you look at the fan of knives runes, it's like 600% damage. This one's 1600, so it's 1000% more than all these other ones. This one's 40% armor, removes the cost, stuns enemies, extra knives. This one is just clearly the best. It has the catch is the longer cooldown, but as I mentioned earlier, you're waiting on your fan of knives stack, so it doesn't really matter that it has a long cooldown, and you need cooldown reduction per permanent vengeance anyways, so like you're gonna end up with cooldown. The cooldown is not an issue there. It's actually helping you maintain your rotation because you only want to use the fan of knives when you're on a lightning proc, and the convention of elements is a 4-second timer, 4 different elements, so it's like a 16-second rotation, which is going to put you at 15 or 30 stacks. Every time the lightning comes up, you should have about 15 or 30, depending on if you used your fan last time or not. And sometimes you're going to want to save up to 30 stacks. If there's like a yellow that you want to one-shot, you might wait and not pop the fan at the 15 and wait for 30. Normally, I just kind of hit it on cooldown as I go lightning. If I'm at 15, I'll go ahead and use it. It's really situational, and that's part of the build that takes the most kind of like judgment as to when do you want to fan early or when do you want to wait. Things like that. So anyways, back to the spec. Vault with Rattling Rune here. As I mentioned, this is to stun the monsters and knock them back as you're vaulting through. It's really, really clutch to have the monsters kind of stalled out for a minute so they don't just instantly kill you. Shadow Power, I have unruned here. This is mostly just to demonstrate the fact that it doesn't matter what rune you put because you get all of them from the Shadow Mantle's 4-piece. Vengeance here with Seethe. This is for the hatred generation. It's going to give you heaps of hatred generation. Also, they buffed Vengeance, so it's a 40% damage increase. So that's huge alone. The hatred, the damage increase, and then also with our cube powers, we're going to get damage reduction from that as well. So we have, as you saw, the Visage of Goons here for the Dark Heart rune on Vengeance. And what that does, if you're not familiar, reduces the damage taken by 50%. So that's really huge. You get 50% damage reduction, 40% damage increase, additional damage, supplemental damage from the rockets, and the hatred generation. There's just really crazy value out of this skill. So that's part of the idea of the build, is to have 100% vengeance, so you're never super vulnerable. You always have that damage reduction. And then, as I mentioned, Fan of Knives. Now for the passives, I have Call of the Week on my neck. That's going to be one of the top tier. Ambush, Awareness, and Perfectionist. All of these are going to be really good. Perfectionist and Sharpshooter here are possibly subject to change. There's not really much else going on for you. I have seen some people running like Numb Traps and Thrill of the Hunt combinations. Also, like Steady Aim is decent, but not incredible. A lot of times you're right there on top of the monster whenever you're hitting your Fan of Knives. You're standing right next to them, and in order to actually hit the target with Impale, most of the time you're actually standing right on top of the monster. So Steady Aim's not looking too good there. Night Stalker is another one I've seen people running. Other than that, it's pretty much, Perfectionist is really good value. Sharpshooter is the only one that possibly Night Stalker here. I haven't really had hatred issues as I'm running around. You have to generate to keep your focus and restraint going, as well as your Raps of Clarity, so it's not like a sacrifice to generate per se. The Leech could also be another passive. Like, the issue with the setup is survivability, so having a little bit more healing could be good. You get the healing from Shadow Power, obviously, but more could help if you like that route of the healing. So the sustain is really good, the damage potential is crazy, the burst is crazy. It's a lot of fun to play. So that's the skills and abilities. Now we can talk about the itemization and the stat priority. I kind of already went over the itemization, so I'm just going to talk about the stat priority here. Basically, you just kind of want to stack your damage and toughness as you can. And you also need that cooldown reduction. So you notice I have cooldown on my ring here, my shoulders, and on my quiver, and then the helmet and the paragon, and that's going to put me at that 36 to 37 cooldown that you need to maintain the Vengeance. That is really important for you to have 100% uptime on Vengeance. So get your cooldown to that much, and then just get your crit chance, crit damage, just like you normally would. Area damage is the other modifier that's really good. As I mentioned on my quiver, I have the area damage. On the shoulders, have area damage. And then on the ring here, I also have area damage. And it's kind of a balancing act here. You don't want to sacrifice too much toughness for area damage. Like my gloves, I could, sacrifice the vitality for area damage. But yeah, again, you have to kind of balance, make sure that you're comfortable with your setup. You don't want to sacrifice too much toughness to go into area damage, because then you're just going to die all over the place, and you're not doing damage when you're dead, obviously. So yeah, just kind of balance that out and get to a point where you're comfortable. I'm currently running 104 area damage, which could be more. Missing 6 there. Got 2 rolls, so potentially area damage on the weapon as well. Crit chance on the helm. I mean, it's standard rolls. Defense stuff here down the middle. Impale damage on the boots. You'll notice I'm not going with Impale on the helmet. I'm going with the vitality on the helmet. 1,000 vitality is a lot to miss out on. So, lightning dual crit on the necklace. Pretty typical rolls here. Now let's quickly talk about the legendary gems and the paragon points. So for the legendary gems, pretty typical here. We got Bane of the Trapped. Over here we got Taeguk. This one is really, really good for the damage and the toughness. Like, the damage isn't that good, but the amount of armor that you get from this just scales really well, especially with high paragon and enchanted gear. So you're just going to get crazy amounts of dexterity, which is going to inflate your armor, just going to add to the value of this. Just to kind of give some perspective, I have like 150 million toughness here without Taeguk, and then with full stacks, I'm at like almost 200 million. It's like 25% toughness increase just straight away from that gem, and it's giving you damage. So it's a nice hybrid gem. You get the defense and the damage, so really good there. And then the last gem, we have Bane of the Powerful. This one's really good for this setup because you're skipping a lot of trash and you're really just murking the elites. You should have reasonable uptime on this. I've had effectively 100% uptime on this all the way up into Greater Rift 78, 79, and 80. So yeah, you are skipping a lot of trash. The gameplay of the build, you skip a lot of trash and you want to focus on killing the elites. Your single target damage is insane, so you don't want to be fighting a bunch of little monsters anyways. You want to kind of skip ahead and fight elites all the time. So gameplay is quite unique, and it's quite fun and interesting, definitely challenging. So, and now we'll talk about the paragon points. Typical stuff here, again, same old, get your movement speed capped, and then primary stat. I was thinking about maybe Paragon for Vitality a little bit, because again, this setup does have survivability issues. Out of all the different Team Hunter builds, this one's one of the most vulnerable with the highest potential. So you may want to kind of shift things around depending on where you're at. I'm just going full dex. If you need Vitality, you can do that. Here, cooldown reduction is going to be the high priority. You have to get your 100% Vengeance uptime, and then after that, using a quiver, your crit damage is going to be more valuable than crit chance, and then attack speed last. And then here, armor, all res armor, life percent, bottom to top, skipping life regen, standard stuff here. And on this one, the area damage is going to be the highest value, resource reduction next, and then life on hit last, so top to bottom there. And that's pretty much it for this. I'm going to show some more gameplay. Okay, so now I'm going to show some gameplay and just kind of talk about what I'm doing and some general strategies for the build. So, as I mentioned, you have the Lord Greenstones fan, which is going to give you stacks on your fan of knives, building up to 30 stacks, which is going to give you a high damage potential. In addition to that, you have the Convention of Elements on a elemental rotation, so you're going to want to let your stacks build up to a lot, and then wait until you're on lightning, and then fan and knives, just like I did right there. And it, depending on whether it crits or not, depending on, you know, the positioning, you can basically one-shot an elite pack with this if you line it up right. The damage potential is crazy. So, and now you can see here, I'm kind of just vaulting back and forth like a madman to kind of keep everything stunned. That's where the rattling rune is coming in for the vault, allowing you to live a little bit easier. And one thing that you kind of want to do is, right now I'm on proc, so I'm playing very defensively because I don't want to die. When you die, the Fan of Knives stacks reset and you have to start over. So it's kind of like Marauders. When you die, you lose all your sentries. You lose a lot of damage potential from dying, so it's quite important just to not die. So I'm playing quite defensive here just because I don't want to die. And then once I'm not on proc anymore and I have some high Fan of Knives stacks, you know, that's whenever you kind of want to look for an elite. So right here I'm just kind of cleaning up the trash, waiting for my proc to come off, and then I'm going to start playing more aggressive now. So you'll notice here I'm going to start going forward, so I'm at 14, 15 Fan of Knives stacks, and still clearing out the trash, and then I procced again. So not exactly what I would have liked to have had happen right here, but you know, I'm way ahead of the time, so I'm able to play really safe and still make good progress. Pretty soon here I am going to skip forward and look for another elite. But I mean, that's pretty much the gist of it. The gameplay, you basically run around, keep your focus and restraint going, spam Impale and vault, and this is where I'm on the look for an elite. So there's the elite. Now I'm going to wait for my lightning. I'm on cold now. Going to fire. I'm going to wait for lightning to come up, and then I'm going to run in and Fan of Knives on lightning. And that was not a very well placed fan. I was kind of scrambling to get the shield pylon while I was on proc, but yeah. A well placed Fan of Knives can kill an elite pack virtually instantly. When you do miss the fan, you gotta kind of clean up with Impale. So the Fan of Knives is your AoE burst, and then the Impale is kind of like the cleanup single target. So you can see here, you know, I Fan of Knives down a lot of them, and now I have to kind of just impale this one guy to death. And this is where, you know, the area damage comes in, and it's doing a lot of value because you hit so hard, and the area damage procs, and it just kills everything in that area. And another thing that I'm doing along the way here, you might have noticed, is some of the higher HP monsters like the Sand Dweller and, you know, some of these Bogic Trapper guys, they have high health, they're worth good progression, and there was a nice fan on 30 stacks. Just one-shot that elite right there, and then we're moving on. But yeah, so like, high health monsters are going to be worth more value. Like, you don't want a bunch of little monsters. You want less quantity but higher health, more progression monsters for the setup. And that was also another one. I mean, once you kind of get into the groove of the rotation and scouting for elites and Fan of Knives on lightning at 30 stacks to kill the elites, I mean, you're going to be killing elites very quickly, and you're going to be able to make good progression. And you can see here 78 Greater Rift, and this is, you know, this is literally my first try doing a 78 with this setup, so I'm not very experienced with the build. I could be playing it a lot better. There's room for improvement, so it's definitely an 80 plus capable build here. And it was a lot of fun to play. Like, I really quite enjoyed it. The gameplay is so different, and it's so unique, and it's so rewarding. Like, you know, some people are like, oh, you're just scrambling around for your life, but the feeling you get when you're like vaulting around and then you just instantly kill this elite, it's really satisfying to just see everything die all at once like that. And the amount of single target damage is just crazy. So you can see here the Rift Guardian, this is without Stricken or anything like that, and he just dies in like less than a minute. So there you go. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's the gameplay. Get the video, all the setup. So there you go. One last look at the setup on the screen. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoy this build. Like I said, I had a lot of fun playing it. Way more fun than I expected. When I first was thinking and hearing about the shadow set, I was pretty turned off. Wasn't really interested. But after actually playing it and giving it a go, it's quite fun and reasonably powerful. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoy. See you next time.